Hey, guess what? We went over 600 subscribers on the channel. Yeah! And of course, you know what that means? A celebration video is in order. And boy, do I have a celebration video for you. Just quickly before we jump into it, I just want to say a massive thank you so much to all of you for supporting me and supporting this channel. Right, enough of that. This video is actually going to be a collaboration video. Well, a remote collaboration video with another incredible YouTube creator. Of course, links to his channel will be in the description down below. Go check him out. So, thank you once more for your support. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and let's do this. Hi folks, my name's Ben and welcome back to the channel. Today, we have a very, very special video. A collaboration video with another absolutely fantastic YouTuber that goes by the alias of artofsoftware, and his real name is Mikey. Hi there, Mikey.
Hi Ben, thanks a lot for responding to my request to do this collab. It's really exciting.
Dude, it really is my absolute pleasure. I'm an absolute mega fan. I'm going to get a bit squishy here, but I'm a mega fan of your channel. Like I think I've said this before, but like the comedy skits especially, that sort of highlight the real world of programming. Like the pair programming video had me in stitches because I was like, oh, I do that. It's so good. So what are we going to talk today about, Mikey? What are we going to talk about?
So this video is going to be about our favorite Vim plugins. So I think we're just going to run through some of the plugins that we like to use, and then we can have a discussion. And then it's really interesting to see how other people use Vim, because like I've mentioned in most of my videos about Vim, that everyone seems to have their own kind of preferred way of using it, you know? Yeah,
it really is. In fact, I would say one of the biggest ways that I learned to use Vim was from like YouTube videos and watching people like Luke Smith. He's one of the big sort of YouTube channels that I'm a big fan of, and he lives inside of Vim and the terminal, and just sort of emulating what he does and just sort of seeing, oh, that's what like a professional Vim person does, so I'll do that. And eventually it just sort of becomes habit, I suppose, doesn't it? It's strange.
Yeah, for me it was very different actually, because I learned to use Vim from my colleagues. So when I first started out as a grad back at Cisco, I was using UI editors and everything, but then there was always these couple of guys who were like really on it, and I was just seeing them whizzing around on Vim, and it just looked cool, man. And that's one of the reasons why I learned it in the end. So why did you start using it? That was a question that I like to ask.
I used to work at a startup company, and one of my tasks was to create this web server that did blah blah blah. Not interesting, but one of the things that I had to do was update like a web page basically on that server. I had two options. I could change the web page on my machine, upload it, FTP it onto the server and refresh, all that kind of stuff, or I could go onto the machine itself and directly edit the page. The cardinal sin of any developer, just directly going to the file. So that was the method that I chose. And because that thing didn't have a screen, that machine didn't have a screen, I had to go through the terminal. That was my very first terminal experience as well. And it just blew my world apart. I'd seen like Windows command lines before, like the CMD and all that kind of stuff, but this was a whole another thing. So I was Googling, how do I change a file in a terminal? And Nano and Vim and Emacs were presented to me, and I was looking at them, I was like, well, Nano is clearly the easiest one, so I'm going to use that. And for me, my journey started in Nano, so I edited all the files in Nanos. I got relatively good with Nano, which is not something that I care to admit. But then after a while, the Nano of it all sort of slowed me down, and I was finding visible, feeling it, like just the genuine, like, oh God, okay, right, so it's Control X to close, and then you have to Control O to overwrite, and then Y to sort of say, yes, I want to overwrite, whatever it is. It's like, oh my God, this is slow. And I started sort of looking for the alternatives, and that's where sort of Vim and Vi came into my life, I suppose.
No, that's pretty much how I felt as well. Like, I think I turned up as a grad at Cisco, and I was asking people, what editors they use, and as a fresh grad, I basically didn't know anything. And some people were using Eclipse, and then a couple of guys were saying, oh, I just use Vi. And I'm like, okay, what is Vi? And then I saw these people editing in the terminal. I was just like, this looks really inefficient.
But what part of that then made you want to go down that path then? Because if you just saw it, you were like, that looks crazy bad. What made you go?
So actually, so a part of it was the same reason as you, right? So we were working on a lot of servers that you'd had to SSH into, and Vi was one of the few editors that were installed in those servers. So if you wanted to do any debugging at that level, then that was just the easy editor to use, right? So I started working from home, and at first what I tried to do was I tried to stick at using the UI editor. I wanted to use Eclipse, and so to do that I had to essentially spin up some virtual desktop thing, right? Like a No machine. So I tried to use No machine, and then I'd fire up a desktop, like a remote desktop, and then I would fire up Eclipse, and then what would inevitably happen is that my connection would drop, and then I would lose everything. And that would happen like maybe once or twice a day, and then I'd start a new session and fire up Eclipse again, and at that point,
yeah, it didn't make me pass out, man.
And then at some point I was just like, this is absolutely dumb, right? And then someone on the team introduced Tmux to me, and it was like, oh, with Tmux you just need an SSH session, so you just need to share your SSH session with someone, and there you go, you can buddy code with really crappy bandwidth essentially, and if you drop off you can just pick up where you left off. And so seeing the power of Tmux made me realize that actually learning Vim is going to be really beneficial, especially if I want to work from home and things like that. So okay, I'm going to cheat here, and I'm going to say that my first plugin of choice is anything by Tim Pope. I'm sure you know who Tim Pope is. Yeah, Tim Pope is, to those who don't know who Tim Pope is, he's basically the godfather of Vim plugins, right?
Oh yeah. The Jesus of Vim plugins.
The Jesus of Vim plugins, yeah. That's pretty much how I describe him. And the thing that's so special about his plugins that I find is that they're so intuitive that I'm really surprised that they don't just come built in. So for example, the one that I really like to use is vim-surround. And I pretty much use that every single day, which is just, shortcuts for quoting stuff, Let me just open some random file. Let me demonstrate again. If I want to wrap this variable in quotes, turn it into a string, then I press YSW quotations, and then it wraps the variable, or it wraps the selection. The way that I remember it, and the way that Tim Pope recommends remembering it, is u-surround word.
U-surround word. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, so u-surround word here with your quotation mark surrounds your selection with a quotation mark. But you can also change the quotation mark. So for example, in JavaScript you have different types of quotation marks for templated strings and normal strings and that. And so I tend to use it a lot to swap between them. So you can, for example, say CS for change surrounding from a double quote into a backtick, for example. Okay, cool. And now I've changed it to a backtick surrounding. The really interesting thing about surround is that it actually comes built into the Visual Studio Code Vim emulation for some reason.
What if you wanted to do like that MIDI note to key map there? It's got like parentheses at the top and parentheses on line 10. Is that something that surround does?
Yeah, so if I'm inside the block, I can just change it now. So if I want to change this if I want to change these curly braces into square brackets, for example, I can just do the same thing. So CS curly brace and then square brackets.
Oh, cool. One of the reasons that I don't like using so many plugins for me is two things. It's one, it's about having to remember and learn more like things, more key mappings and stuff, which isn't necessarily a problem, but combined with the second reason is I really like to keep my flow portable, like the sort of the POSIX Vim of me.
Yeah.
I want to be able to pick up my go on any machine, even in Vi, like fully use Vi, like without any plugins, and be able to still keep the same speed instead of having to pick up plugins. But yeah, it's an interesting one.
I completely agree with that. I think when you're first learning Vim, you basically want to learn it with minimal plugins, right? Mm-hmm. But then after a while, if you want to kind of supercharge yourself, I think there's no harm in kind of installing loads of plugins. I probably have too many, but
no, and I think as well, if you got a machine where you are constantly on it, consistently on it, then it's
Yeah, I mean, if you're going around SSHing into random machines and having to change files there, then yeah, you're going to have to basically reprogram yourself occasionally
exactly.
be like, oh, actually, I don't have surround here, so I'm going to have to manually quote this, or I have to manually comment out these lines, right?
So yeah, so I use Vim inside of the default terminal on the Mac. I don't use like NeoVim or anything like that. Again, for the same reason, is that portability reason. If I go to another Mac, I don't want to have to install. Although a lot of people tell me that like NeoVim is awesome and stuff. I treat myself like somebody that isn't allowed to sort of to cheat. I must stay away from all that. So yeah, these are my plugins. But the one that I want to start to talk about is fzf in Vim. So that's this one here. fzf, I'll sort of cheekily self-promote myself. I've done a video on just fzf, the fuzzy finder in the terminal. We'll put links in the description down below. But this is the fzf for Vim, so you can incorporate fuzzy finding directly into Vim to like jump into certain files or certain locations and whatnot. So if I've got a project here that I'm in, I know that I've got a file called main activity, for example. I can hit my quick key binding to trigger fuzzy finding in Vim, and it loads up the fuzzy finder at the bottom, and then I can just start typing like main activity, and you can see it's found just from the sort of 6 letters the file that I'm interested in. And then you can you can enable previews. You can set different settings on it, so you can have previews of the files, and then you can set them to open up that file. So that's just opened up the file that I was interested in.
When you were doing the search, then what was it showing in the bottom right? Was it the first file that matches it, or what?
Yeah.
Which one?
So in the left here is all of the files. By default, it'll just show you all of the files, and then when you start to narrow down your search, let's go for manifest this time. It will narrow down the search. See, it's dropped to 3 options that contain that string. Yeah. And on the right on this panel is a preview of that file. And I actually use fzf, and instead of just open it fully into the buffer, hopefully I've got this right, I hit space and I use tabs inside of Vim. Yeah, so that's sort of my usage of fzf Vim. You've got to have installed fzf as a standard, and then the additional plugin. But yeah, I couldn't live without it now. And most of the times, I'll open Vim blank, just hit V, alias V, open Vim, and then hit my colon character, which opens my fzf, and look for files that way, as opposed to like opening a specific file when I start my journey. So that's kind of nice.
I think the point here is that fuzzy file finding is just so important and such a big part of efficient Vim usage that I find personally, right? Whether you use Control P or that one, you know.
Exactly. You have it in your GUI IDEs, so why not have it in Vim? And the fzf tool in general, like outside of Vim, is just quality as well. I do a lot of script writing, like Bash script writing, and using fzf to enable like an interactive menu selector as well is quality.
The next one I want to talk about is nerdtree. You use nerdtree?
Yes, nerdtree. Yeah,
nerdtree is so good. So for those who don't know what nerdtree is, it's basically a file explorer, right? Yeah. So if you come from any GUI IDE, you're going to be used to having this thing on the left, which shows you what files you've got in the project. Yeah, nerdtree is great, and I pretty much use it like all the time. So, I might just fire up Vim and then just go straight into nerdtree to find the file that I actually want.
There's one thing in nerdtree that I've always sort of struggled with, because I can never remember the bindings for it. I don't want to have to drop out of Vim to make a new file, like to touch file or whatever. M.
Yeah. Okay. Actually, I was going to talk about that because M is something that I use all the time, which is basically for modifying files. So when you press M, it now asks you, should you execute this file, add a child node, move the current node, and it basically gives you all the shortcuts you can do. Yeah, so I can rename this. So let's say, call it that.
Oh, it's that easy.
Yeah, exactly. Or you can copy the node, for example. Let's say I want to copy it. I'm going to call it copy here.
There
you go.
No. Oh, that's cool. So the next one for me is a really silly one. Majoritively, it's kind of just, it's a bit useless. It's fun, and maybe it's not useless, but it's called vim-minimap. So in like IDEs, on the sort of right at the top, you have like the high-level zoomed-out schematic of the file. You can do that in vim-minimap.
No way!
So I'm just remembering the binding for it. I think it's M like that. So that pops open, and it's not. It's because it's got to use just like the dot characters. It can't do anything like genuinely zoomed out, so it's never like sort of super. But it's basically the mini map. If I just reveal all of my my hidden areas, and just sort of pan up a little bit, you can see me, like my highlighted area is where I am in that file, and sort of it just shows the layout. I don't know if you use that like in your visual IDEs. I always do. Like the shapes of the code is what reminds me to sort of jump back to that area.
Right, so my last one is actually one that is not a very popular plugin, but I don't understand why it isn't popular. And it's called Command Line Complete. And maybe the reason why it's not popular is because there is actually already a good way of doing this, and I just don't know about it. That's why I've installed this plugin to do it. But have you ever found that, let's say you want to do a find and replace, right? And let's say I want to replace MIDI computer keyboard here with some other class name, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I do a normal find and replace, how do you autocomplete at this point?
You don't. I don't autocomplete at that point, yeah.
Aha, unless you have Command Line Complete.
Ah.
Because then you press Control N, and it also completes for you. Yeah, that is something that I was looking for so long, because I was working on this project and we just had really, really long variable names because it just had to be really specific. And I just had to, like, instead of having to type them all out or like copy and paste them using a mouse, yeah, I can use this plugin now.
Okay, yeah, the way that I do it is, again, the poor man's way. I copy the word that I'm going to paste into a register. And then I'll do the command, and when it's time to paste it in, if you do Control R in native Vim, and then the buffer that you want to like pull out from, it'll paste into the command line.
So basically, if I yank this now, for example.
Yeah, yank word or whatever.
And then I go here.
Yeah,
and then
Control R, and then speech marks.
Oh, no way.
So my last plugin is called vim-signature. There it is. So vim-signature is kind of, I like it a lot because I use marks in Vim a lot. So, you can do like M to set a mark, and then any letter or any number on that line in that file. And then you can navigate away, carry on your editing. And at any point you can do single quotation and the letter to jump back to that mark. However, in normal native Vim, there's no visual representation of that mark. vim-signature gives you this. If I was to make a mark on this line, MA, you can see in the left gutter is the mark that is attached to that line. So if I just go down here,
that is
MB,
cool.
Yeah, MD and ME, and you can put multiple marks on multiple lines and it fills it in the gutter. I use marks all the time to jump around. So if I want to go to A, I'll just single quotation A, go to B. If I want to delete mark A, so DMA, but that's just a marks thing. But that's it. That's it again, isn't it? It's like everyone's got their own preference or their own context of how they use Vim. And yeah, my Vim looks completely different to your Vim, and it's a really cool thing. And in fact, on the looks thing, what color scheme? What color scheme are you, sir? Because your color scheme looked fly.
I'm using Molokai.
I like your color scheme looks really nice, but I use Dracula just because I like the purples.
Yeah, I've heard of that one.
I'm a big purple fan, yeah. So yeah, we were just talking briefly about we've written our own plugins, and I'm just going to show you a little bit about what my plugin does. And it is on GitHub, but it's called MyVimPlugin still because I never got around to naming it because it has multiple different functionalities. I basically just wrote little things that I find useful. So a couple of the ones are like, I do Vim for note taking. So there's title, underline, and figlet. I can take a word and I can run -F and run this figlet function on it. So it turns it into a figlet title instead.
That is
or I
cool.
can do another title and I can do underline. That one's a bit broken at the moment, work in progress. Or I can do, -T. To put it in like, blocks, just because I do a lot of note taking and it's nice to sort of segment that out. But the best thing that I like is it does inline translations. So if I do a German word here, I can use my plugin to do, -en to translate from German to English, and it'll put it next to it. And obviously we can do it the other way around. So if I just do cat and -de, so to German, it will hopefully put Katza next to it.
That's cool. Wait, so what does it use to do the translation?
Here, it uses a package called Trans. So Trans, again, you can just install that with the package manager, and it obviously lets you translate between all sorts of different languages. I just have it hard-coded to translate to and from German.
That's great. How did you learn the Vim script?
So there's a great website. I think it's the one that I've been using. It's like Learn the Hard Way or something.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Other than that, it's basically just sort of cheating and making like an extended Vim RC. essentially is all I've done, and then some Vim script stuff like, you know, this if the executable is existing or whatever.
In terms of levels of cheating, my plugin is a lot worse than yours, man.
Is it?
Because I wrote it in Python. Yeah, I've called it a custom Python plugin. So yeah, so where I'm currently at, we use something called Clubhouse, which is basically a modern version of Jira. And basically this function will pull down my current tickets that I've got in progress when I'm doing a git commit message. I'll type git commit and it'll fire up Vim, and then it'll open a split and show me these are the tickets that you're currently working on, so that I can put my ticket number into my commit message.
Cool. So yeah, that was really quite insightful, Mikey. Thank you very much for that, and I really appreciate you reaching out to do this collab. And I'm sure people are going to see more of us doing some duo collabing in the future. Genuinely, I really enjoy your channel, and I think what you're doing is really fun. Without giving too many spoilers to the audience, Mikey did a video recently that was what does code sound like. I kind of don't want to say too much, but it's as brilliant as it sounds, pardon the pun.
Yeah, so it's called the art of software, and the reason for that is because, you know, I think there's a lot of creativity involved when it comes to coding. So that's one of the reasons why I call it that. And also I want to experiment with more creative projects as well, which I guess like the one that you refer to is a bit of a creative project that's completely pointless, but was a lot of fun. Yeah, thanks for you know, replying to my message and setting this up. It's been really fun.
Absolute pleasure, man. The pleasure's been all mine. Absolutely. And just to the audience, if you're looking for Mikey's channel, Art of Software, I'll make sure it'll be the first link in the description down below. Definitely go check it out. Go subscribe. It's some fantastic stuff he's doing over there. So yeah, and yeah, thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.
I guess let's just fake that we just called each other.
Hi folks.
I'm practicing.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
You go. Blooper reel. What distro you use on your VM?
I'm using Manjaro.
Oh, Manjaro is tight. I like Manjaro.
Manjaro is so good, man, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, I use Arch, by the way.
Yeah. Ubuntu's for 12-year-old kids, man. Man, my hair looks like shit, man. Yeah, I think I need to explore it more. I need to watch your video. I haven't seen it yet.
Don't. It's rubbish. It's a crap video. Cool. So you use tabs then instead of spaces as well?
No, these are actually spaces.
Oh, they?
Oh,
good.
Yeah, we had to almost had to shut this whole thing down, you know, based on that.
Yeah, we're just like, right, see you later, mate. It should be there. Where is it? There it is. Oh, sorry. Hang on, let me do that again. It's. Let me start that. Stop from the top there. Look more professional.